Yeah, we have a similar experience. I heard a couple stories where maybe you can share that story when you're in China and you were on tourist visas, but the police came to your hotel room.
Oh, yes. Yes. So that wasn't when I was living there. So at that time I was living here and I went over to have a fight with Kunlun. I think it was Kunlun. And I took Woody with me. I always used to take Woody with me to corner me, even though he didn't like have any fight experience. It was like more just having like someone funny around. Made me fight better. So I took Woody and man, like the hotel that sponsored the fight was like an hour out of Beijing, but we were fighting in Beijing. So we had to keep doing these like massive drives. And one day, like on fight day, they're knocking on my door, and they come to the door and I'm like, Woody, just tell them to piss off. Like I want to sleep and I'll have the fight. Tell them to leave. So he told them to leave. Next minute, like more of them came back for the boss and they're like, you've got to go. You got to go to the embassy, like and get a visa. I was like, no, I got a visa. And they're like, no, the police know you guys are here fighting for cash. You need like a work permit, like a working visa. I was like, fuck. So it was like 2 PM. So they drove us to the embassy. So it's like now 3 o'clock. And then we had to wait at the embassy for like an hour and a bit. Finally got these visas. They drove us back to the hotel. And they were like, oh, you got to go to the fight in like 15 minutes. And I was like, oh, can we eat? Because like we haven't eaten today. And they were like, yeah. So they bring out this big ass bowl of like fried rice. And they're like, yeah, just eat that. And then they just took us to the fight. And
yeah, and Chinese food.
And they turned up at the, the police all turned up at the immigration, turned up at the fight and checked all our passports and everything.
Yeah, especially when you're out there, the Chinese food. Well, I was okay because I was in Shenzhen, so we had Western food. But I have some buddies that live there, and kind of we have a joke. It's like we basically had diarrhea for 6 years.
Yeah, man.
It's like just shit in your pants all the time.
I made beelines for like Macca's or anything like Western. That's like I would make weight, and then I'd just like fuel up on Macca's, KFC, Pizza Hut.
Yeah, Pizza Hut.
It was the only place in the world I could swear I could find Pizza Hut anymore after a while. It was China.
Man, I lived off Pizza Hut, especially like, man, nights out drinking and like you needed pizza and like that's all you had. But that Pizza Hut pizza, like if you don't eat it when it's hot and it turns cold, it just literally turns into a brick.
It's like chewing this couch.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's terrible. So were you actually living in China before that?
Not really living. I wasn't there long enough to like class it as living, I'd say. I was there it was supposed to be a year. And I got there and I was there 2 months and I was like, I am out of here. This is terrible. They're like, we were in Jingzhou, like what, like mainland China.
Yeah.
Z-H-E-N. Z-H-E-N-G-Z-H-O-U.
Oh, Zhengzhou.
They say like Zhengzhou or something, yeah. And
I like how you throw that accent on there.
Bro, it was horrible. Yeah. It was horrible. It was like, again, terrible city, but then hour and a half drive out into the countryside through like all these fish farms. Yeah. And then this like big abandoned hotel that has been turned into a gym with like dormitories. And so that's where we were.
Yeah, because
there's Wi-Fi in like one corner of the place and like the boss's room, but you weren't allowed there.
The pay, it was good for fighters at that time in China. Like I know a lot.
Oh,
like,
fuck yeah, man.
Like if you're doing even Muay Thai, guys like, would you know like Eddie Farrell?
Yeah.
Okay, so guys like that, they would be going out to China because you're getting paid way more than doing it here.
China, like, as much shit I talk on it, it gave me the opportunity to live as like a full-time fighter, like as a professional fighter, because like without them, you'd be getting paid shit here at the stadiums and just being ripped off everywhere. But I had like a pretty good contract with the Chinese, so I could live in Auckland. Like I made enough to live in Auckland and fight. And then obviously if I made enough to live in Auckland and just fighting and living here was sweet, right? And then I was working as well at Tiger. So, it was good for me. It was good for me.